Hello, hello, hello.
Hey.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We are here for another episode of Talking Taboo with Chain Breakers Podcast. And of course, we kind of switching it up this time. We're going from co-host to co-host to do some different introductions and to give the main host a break. I mean, goodness, congratulations, Trista, because you've been doing this for 2 months. All of you have been doing this for 2 months. I think we need to all just give ourselves a round of applause because it's been work. And we've been talking about a lot of these things. And we're going to continue to talk about these things. It helps us with healing. But let's introduce all of the rest of the crew.
All right. Hi, I'm Trista.
Hello, I'm Nisha.
Oh, and I'm Hasna Deanna.
Yes. Thank you all again for joining us. Definitely feel free to drop your thoughts on what we're going to be discussing in the chat and or call us later when the phone lines are open. But let's get into this. We're going to be discussing racial inequality and white supremacy. And, trigger warning, things are really going to get deep. As usual, we're talking taboo. So let's get into it. Racial inequality and white supremacy. I got to give me just a little caffeine.
Take your time.
So now, you're about to go there.
Yeah.
So especially looking at what's going on around the world, globally, as well as in the USA, and looking at how the pandemic has played out, for me, it was evident how racial inequalities played a ongoing role in how the pandemic rolled out and who was impacted the most and affected the most. So, for you all, when you think about racial inequality, what are some things that come to your mind?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone can go.
For myself, working in healthcare and being a nurse, I'm just glad that you brought up the whole pandemic issue. What I have noticed and the things that I've heard is that depending on the color of your skin, it determines the type of treatment that you may receive. And I think that that's something that we may not look at enough, but racism is big in the healthcare field. So that's something that I definitely think we should shed light on. Coming from my background as a nurse, that's something I don't think we look at enough. But certain people don't get the proper care within the healthcare system.
I feel like with the pandemic going on, it just really showed a lot of hate. People were able to express how they really feel. It was like not hidden anymore. It hasn't been hidden for a while, but it really was like up in your face.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to like that aspect, like, Trish was talking about from a medical standpoint, but I did like 3 years in law enforcement. I worked in county jail for like a year and a half, and I worked in a prison for like a year and a half, a state prison. And it wasn't so obvious in the county jail because they're under like the sheriff, and they have to keep their standards a little higher with how they conduct things in the jail. But when I worked for the local like state prison, I like saw firsthand, how, in the justice system, how, we are treated or mistreated or taken advantage of in that aspect. And then not only that, then you're confined, and then you have, Caucasians or anybody, different races of people that, further oppress you because they feel like I have the authority to do so. You know what I'm saying? So I saw it in that aspect, and I saw it in an aspect too, as me being an African American woman in a predominantly white area with most of the head people being Caucasian, and how they feel like they can handle even an officer. You know what I'm saying? So it's like levels to it, but it's still like you kind of still, y'all still all the same. Y'all still all what they would say the N word, but the respect level is just a teeny bit better because you're in an authoritative type position, but still you're only a step above the ones who are incarcerated. So that was another aspect I experienced when it comes to racial inequality or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything y'all said is just, again, it's deep. It's just almost as if with racial inequality and white supremacy, it's interwoven into society in every facet. I mean, y'all literally just named from healthcare to the criminal justice system, incarceration. We see Black and brown people of color, lower income, working class people more than likely being incarcerated or going from the school to prison pipeline. So that's deep. And then, like Hassana mentioned, everything with the overt racism, it's just in your face. Like, and like, for example, when I don't know, again, I don't want to be judging either and being prejudiced, but I am a product of my environment. And like, I am prejudiced. I have my own biases and prejudgments. And when I see a truck, a pickup truck driving down the highway with American flags, and then even if it's just a regular American flag, I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then if I see the blue line, I already am like, okay, then there's the don't tread on me and everything else. And it's like, okay, what is that messaging really about? Is it because you're about liberty, justice, freedom, rights, small government and everything else? Or is it something else? Is there a racial undertone here, a racist undertone, a white supremacist undertone, So, again, it's just something I be thinking about. Yeah. But another thing that comes to mind, when we talk about this in the job field, you have to work, you have to make a living. We live in a capitalist society. How has race impacted you on your day-to-day life, whether that's in your work life, your home life, in general?
For myself, I do understand that there's like a lot of microaggression, but an incident that come to my mind is I was actually a nurse working in a correctional facility. And I would very often be made to be like charge nurse or supervisor for the shifts, on several days. And there was this Caucasian lady who, she was an older lady as well, who just seemed like she was jealous, and she felt some type of way with me being the young Black nurse. And I'm being placed in the charge nurse or supervisor role every shift. So what I would notice is it's like whenever I would give like a like some type of directive that needed to be taken care of, I would notice that I would always get something back from her. Initially, I didn't really know what it was, but it got to the point to where we had to go in the head nurse's office to talk about it. And I asked her, I said, does it bother you that I'm a young nurse and I'm in this position and you're not? And the first thing she said, don't be trying to psychoanalyze me. Like I must have hit a spot, because I think that was the issue. You see what I'm saying? And then not only that, being a young Black nurse. So that incident definitely came to mind when I thought about that. But I do believe that had a lot to do with the situation. Because if it was one of the older Caucasian nurses or somebody else, I'm sure she would not have any problem, taking any directives from them that was needed. But because it was me, I think that was the underlying issue. But she refused to answer that question. She refused. And the head nurse was like, well, it's a valid question, but she would not answer it. Like she would not.
Yeah, it was definitely a trigger point for her. It was a trigger point. I know for me, I remember when the pandemic and everything started, and like I really try not to play the race card too much. Like if I see it, I call it out. But I remember when the pandemic first started, and at my job, I worked for a really great company, But I noticed like it was a higher up who, and I'm just gonna leave it at a higher up. I'm not gonna point out the job description, but it was a higher up who was like, if anyone, we know we're taking pay cuts right now, and if anyone needs, like a loan or something, to catch you up on bills or whatever the case may be, we're here. But I noticed that when that statement was made, it was like this particular individual was coming to only the African American people. Like, if you need any help, we're here. Don't hesitate. And I'm sitting here. I say, honey, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't need, thank you for your offer, but I'm okay. And then I'm watching her go up to the next person who is a Caucasian woman. And I know for a fact, because this woman and I have conversations that, she's like tight on cash and she saves a lot because she's so tight. But never once did she go over to that woman and say, if we're here, if you need any assistance. It was just like only to the African Americans. And I was like, well, damn, like, do I have like I need help written on my forehead?
Yeah.
I'm not broke and I'm not rich, but I'm good. Like, I don't need I don't need it. And I kind of got offended by it. You know what I mean? But then I just let it blow over. And then after that statement was made, I took about like 3 trips after that. So it was like, sis, I'm good. It wasn't to prove a point to her, but it was just like, I'm good.
Okay. So in my case,
like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was like, let me book these trips real quick. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and she was looking like, oh, you're going on like trips back to back? Oh, wow. It's a pandemic going on. And I was like, yeah. And my bills are paid and my trips are paid in full. And I'll see you when I get back.
right, that part.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all, it's crazy because I don't know. This is weird. Like, I never been in a place like I feel kind of anxiety, but I don't have a reason. Let me just tell you. Like, I bought my house 2 years ago, and where I bought it at, I'm the only Black person around. Like, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 houses around me, and I'm the only Black person. So nobody says any. Nobody. I have one neighbor that speaks to me. Nobody else speaks to me. It's quiet. It's real quiet. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a break from being in the hood or being in the projects where it's rowdy and you're hearing shooting and all this stuff. So it's quiet, but then I still have anxiety because I'm like, I'm the only one here, and how do they feel about a Black person being around them? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's stuff like that. It's always going to be an underlying like nervousness when it comes to us being in their space.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's their space, but that's how people feel. So that's the only thing with me. It's just like uncomfortable. And then just like thinking history, like back in the day, somebody would have threw something in my house. You know what I'm saying? Burnt my house down or try to run me out. So I guess just knowing the history is why the anxiety is there, because like you can't really feel at peace sometimes because it's
So
just
my question to you is, what made you move in that neighborhood knowing that it was predominantly white?
I guess because that's not, until you're in a situation, that's not something you really would think would be an issue. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because I'm just like, it's quiet. At the time I
Mm-hmm.
bought my house, the houses on the market were going left and right. So I'm like, okay, this is nice. It's a nice size. The price is right, whatever the case is. But as far as, even thinking that, I would have never even thought that would bother me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Until I was in it, and I'm like, this is a little awkward, but there's nothing going on. They're quiet. It's quiet, but it's just like always that little small anxiety with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you just feel like
Yeah.
and like
And
an
I'm
outside,
sure
and then that now I got to bring it up. Have any of you read the book White Mask?
Say it one more time. I couldn't hear.
I started it, but I never finished it.
Have you all ever read the book Black Skin, White Man?
No, I've heard of it, but I
Yeah.
haven't read it.
I
Okay.
started it, but I didn't finish it. Yeah.
What is it about?
Okay. It's a book. I might be pronouncing his name incorrectly. It's a book by Frantz Fanon, and he's a psychologist, and he's like he does a psychological analyst of like looking at white supremacy and how race is played throughout time, and it's wild because he's looking at it in the USA, but he's mostly looking at how it is in France and what he's dealing with and looking at the similarities. And then it made me think about W.E.B. Du Bois and, pulling back the veil and the double consciousness. And with Trista being, a psych nurse, I'm like, we have to talk about the mental health implications of white supremacy and racial inequality. Like, how does that impact everybody? White people, people of color, Black folks, Hispanics, Latinos, everyone. Like, how does that impact us?
Yeah. Yeah. What I think about, and I'm in a lot of these groups on Facebook, a lot of these Black mental health groups, etc. Black children of toxic parents, things of that nature. And I notice when a lot of people speak about, therapy, etc., a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of, Black and brown people feel as if a therapist outside of their race will not get them or will not understand them. And then I think there's a lot of people, and this is somebody that I see this a lot during my clinical training. There are people with certain diagnoses like bipolar, schizophrenia, things of that nature. And I noticed that a lot of the African American clients, they will really vent to me about, I'm not taking this medicine, nothing's wrong with me, because they feel as if this, the Caucasian nurse practitioner or psychiatrist are just trying to dope them up. And they were like, I'm not going to take this because it's going to affect me. So they don't have trust in a lot of the system, so to speak. And I can understand that. And I think that goes way back as well, because there were some sayings that people of color would get different diagnoses. You see what I'm saying? But nobody ever really took into account the trauma and the underlying things that could be causing the issues. And for myself, I didn't want to go into psychiatry, so to speak, to dope people up on medication. That really wasn't my thing. I really wanted to be a psychotherapist, more focusing on the therapy side. But for me, it was easier, since I was already a nurse, to just go back for those years and then build upon that and become, a psychiatric nurse practitioner. But my focus is going to be more on dealing with a lot of the root causes of things. I don't want to. Some people need medication, yes, some people do. But at the end of the day, you can take medication, but if you don't deal with the root, you don't learn certain coping skills and learn how to deal with their stress, the medication really ain't going to help too much for a lot of people. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we have to learn how to deal and really get to the bottom of issues and not mask the problems. Again,
That's the first time I ever heard someone say that.
Right. Some people need medication now. Sometimes you need it, but a lot of times I think a lot of things you really need to have that psychotherapy, specifically more of the trauma-informed therapy to get to the root of it. But again, we have to be willing to go there as well, because a therapist is only as good as they can only do what you allow them to do. Mm-hmm. They can't go far if you don't want to go there. And sometimes, because of how deep our issues are, we don't want to go deeper, because it brings up so many of the memories and, anxieties and fears, etc. But I'm just big on dealing with the root cause issues. And I do think a lot of times our people can be misdiagnosed, mislabeled because they don't come in contact with healthcare professionals and clinicians that understand, and that's trauma informed.
Yeah. Mm. That was good, Trista.
Yes.
I have never like heard it put like that either.
How and for you all, when it comes to mental health, and like, how do you think that racial inequality, racism, white supremacy, colorism, how it impacts people, society?
Well, yeah, I think mental health overall is very important. So when you are not right mentally, and then you have something like a pandemic going on, it
Mhm.
really messes
Yeah.
you up because you're already not together on a regular day of what we call regular. So now it's a whole crisis happening, and then it's just you're all jacked up in the head. So then, like now, I really feel like with the pandemic, you have people who their mental health is taking control over them to where they're having panic attacks and they're killing themselves or whatever the case may be because it's just too much. It's too much. You're constantly afraid. Sometimes when you're left alone, you're afraid of your own thoughts, of where your own thoughts can take you.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think overall, like that mental health plays a major part in everything, just day-to-day life. But then again, like I said, when there's a crisis happening, it just is a trigger.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay, so I think for me, I feel like Hasna was saying, you have to get your mental health in order to withstand anything. So I feel like for us, it's still like a taboo of therapy. More people are focusing on their mental health and trying to break like generational curses and all that. I think there's a greater awareness of it, but there's still that struggle, that power struggle, where we feel like we got to carry the weight of the world on our shoulder because that's what it always had to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's still like we're fighting against what, like a mental battle where people think, okay, if I went and got this therapy or if I needed to take this medication, that makes me weak. That means I'm not strong. No, sometimes you need to
Yeah.
release all that, you know what I'm saying? All that
Hmm.
pressure and all that whatever, so you can carry on, so you can continue to be strong or whatever. Because everybody got their breaking point.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, we're not really taught that. Because like even me, before I started therapy, I had a Caucasian lady tell me, she's like, for every one black woman that goes to therapy, there's 10 white women that will go. Like y'all very much so feel like y'all have to carry everything on your shoulders or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm like, for a white woman to tell me that, why would I not be that one woman, that one black woman that would start that journey? And as I started my journey, I noticed I try to pull others and
Hmm.
suggest it and try to do referrals and stuff. But it's like kind of it's still a battle
Yeah.
because you can't force healing on people.
Yeah.
I guess it's like you just try to be that little light in darkness sometimes. You
Hmm.
hope that others will want their light shining more brightly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's also something I feel like is a byproduct of racial inequality.
Yeah.
I, everything y'all said again, totally agree. And just going off of that, when y'all talked about the whole feeling that you got to carry the weight on the shoulder, where do these stereotypes come from that black women can only be strong, the strong black woman carrying weight? Like, where do these assumptions and stereotypes come from? And a lot of it is based out of white supremacy. It's based, you have these characteristics that are placed on you by another society. And that has nothing to do with you, but you feel like you have to live up to these standards because that's what
Hmm.
everybody sees you as. And again, that's mentally exhausting, that's physically exhausting, and it's leading to a lot of people dying prematurely, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's so true. And I'm just thinking about like the double standard of it all. When you speak about how we're conditioned to be strong, but as soon as somebody takes a rest, let's say it can be a mother like Nisha, it could be Nisha as a mom taking a break, and then now she's lazy and she's a trifling mother. So it's like you're kind of damned if you don't, damned if you do. It's like one of those situations to where it's just like you just can't seem to win.
You can't win.
Yeah.
But you know what? It comes a point in time where you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So when you take that break, it's like you have to put in your mind and work on your mental that it doesn't even matter what anybody else say, think, or feel at this point, because you need that time where you are working on your mental health and having that time for yourself so that you could continue to be a good mother, or you could continue to be that strong woman that we're labeled to be.
Right.
Being strong, people forget to check on the strong one, because you're the one who keeps it all together. You're the one who always finds a way to work it all out, but we tend to get forgotten about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to tell yourself, I matter too. So you have to give yourself that break, because if not, then you're no good. If you're not good for yourself, then you're no good for anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm glad y'all said that, just stemming from that. Because I feel like as a single mother, as the boss, as so many hats or whatever, that's where I'm at now, where I'm like, I'm just gonna isolate myself from everybody, because I'm the one everybody want to vent to, because I'm the one that's on the little healing journey.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, like, that's
But
draining.
you have to create healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Right. But
You
then,
have to create healthy boundaries.
Also, if you never had boundaries in place for yourself and you're always the go-to person, sometimes you have to pull away from people so you can establish, okay, you know what, this right here, that's too much for me. And I need to, I have to create and even know what the boundaries look like, because I've always been a helping person. I've always been kind heart. Always been overly, giving to others. So I feel like taking a break is me doing for me, and creating in my head what that even looks like to have those boundaries in place.
And that's very important. I'm one too who I'm the go-to person in my family. I don't care what's going on. It could be from my grandmother all the way down to my father, to my parents. You know what I mean? Like, everyone calls me. But I remember a time where I was going through and I felt so overwhelmed and I couldn't call anybody.
Yeah.
And the reason why I felt like I couldn't call anybody is because they're the ones that's always calling me. So I already feel like I'm on a different level from them. So now I'm searching, or at a point in time, I was searching to be connected with people that was on a higher level than me, so that I can grow from what they have going on and put myself in healthy, atmospheres for myself.
Yeah.
So I too was one who didn't understand what boundaries were until I started the healing journey. And once I began to heal, then I realized, okay, the same love, the same attention, the same time that I'm giving everybody else, I have to have that for myself.
Right. And on not only that, if I'm going to give it freely to you, you need to reciprocate back to me what I give.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah, that's really good. And I think a lot of times, like you were saying, sometimes you have to step back and really figure it out. I know what I had to do was write a list, like, okay, this person is in my life. How do I want to deal with them? Okay, do I need to cut them out? Do I need to just limit my contact with them? You see what I'm saying? Because that's what I realized too, that I wasn't in reciprocal relationships. A lot of them were one-sided, where I was doing all the work, and that drains you. And it's like you have to really surround yourself with people who can, give you what you give. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So
yes.
It's so important. It's so important.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now that we're talking about boundaries, because boundaries are important. When you look at the society that we live in, does it provide an atmosphere for people to even have boundaries, let alone
not for us? Not for us. Even stuff like how somebody could walk up to you, oh, your hair, you know what I'm saying? Like how they be so fascinated. So yeah, there's no boundaries set up when it comes to us. Like that is really a self-taught or something you learn, like she said, on your healing journey? Because there are none. You know, we just treat it as second-class citizens. So what boundaries? You know, we don't respect them. We gonna treat them any type of way. What boundaries do we have?
Yeah.
Well, and then you get it from your own family members too, who don't have, you know, they don't respect you and they don't care about your boundaries. And then when you set the tone for boundaries, then it's like, oh, you're acting different, or oh, you think you're better than, or I remember when. Well, listen, you continue to remember when, because right now, these are my boundaries. You're going to respect it. And if you can't, just stay away from me.
Exactly.
You know, it's like at a point in time, you just have to be firm. You have to put your foot on people's neck, and you have to keep it there, because the moment that you let up, then the disrespect becomes like outrageous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's all.
Mm-hmm. And just to add to what you all were saying, like, I definitely don't think we live in a society where boundaries are respected. And again, I think a lot of that goes back to our childhood. A lot of us were raised in dysfunctional environments. It is what it is, to where, first of all, we were emotionally neglected, you know, abused, etc., to where our feelings, they didn't matter. You see, we never had boundaries. I think, Psych, you said that in one of the shows. We never had boundaries, you know,
right.
environments. You weren't allowed to have boundaries, you know, because if you would say no, then it'll be like, you know, who you're talking back to. Like, everything was always an issue.
Yeah,
so
and forced upon you.
Right. So what does that cause a child to do? It calls you to shrink and you to fall in line. You see what I'm saying with what that parent, caregiver, guardian wants you to do. So it's like your boundaries are stripped from you in childhood. So I think we just have a society of people that, let's just be real, that are operating under dysfunctional beliefs. And it's like, when you are that person to try to put up those boundaries, like Hassan says, you're acting funny, or you're no longer easy to manipulate, you know, so it becomes an issue. Right. So I think it all goes back to our childhood. The average person, I'm just going to be real, a lot of us, our families are dysfunctional as fuck. Let's just call a spade a spade. You see what I'm saying?
We love them, but listen.
Yeah, it's
right, honey. Yeah, some of y'all need
right.
one, like, honey, sit down, let me have a talk with you.
Right.
And you know what? And it's like, even when you want to sit down and talk, I realize what, like, because right now my family is going through something, and I haven't really, like, I'm saying something right now for the first time, because I'm aware of what is taking place, but I really haven't addressed it. You get what I'm saying? And I just feel like at this point right now, it's kind of pointless, because nobody wants to sit down and have a real conversation. So it's like everybody rather point the finger on, oh, so-and-so's acting funny, or this person did this. But it's like, do y'all not realize that if we really get in a room together and we sit down and we begin to hold each other accountable for what has taken place throughout our lives, we will really get down to the root of the issue. But everybody is so afraid to come together, because we have, for so long, we have been protecting the lies of each other. So now nobody wants to get in this group, because they know once we get in this group, the lies are going to be, you know, exposed. So I have really been like quiet with my own family, and I know they're probably sitting back like, okay, do Deanna know this? Does she know this is going on? Because like I said, I'm the go-to person. So I done had conversations with cousins and stuff, ain't even brought the damn situation up, because I'm like, y'all not ready for what I'm ready to put out. So therefore, I might as well keep my mouth closed, pray on it, and just keep moving. And the time will come, you know, we'll be able to have the conversation. But when you really think about how dysfunctional your families are, it's really because of the lies that's being told and the secrets that are being held.
Right. And it just seems so easy. Like, yo, this is so easy to solve. I'm like one of these people to where I see the future in a sense of, like, for instance, let's say, Nisha, if you and I have an issue, I immediately know, okay, we need to go ahead and address this, because I see the issues that can brew and how big the problem can get when it doesn't have to be it like that. It's something so small. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead and address this and let it be. But over time, things fester, and then you have to start covering up another lie with another lie. And problems are created generation after generation, stupid stuff. Like, let's just solve this. A conversation can solve so much.
Or when people are on their fake healing journey,
It's
You know,
Oh
people
my
will
God.
do that real quick too. That fake healing
that
journey.
fake
It's
killing.
like, you know, I can't be around so and so because I'm protecting my peace. When you
Oh
actually the
God.
drama.
And
Right.
You get what I'm
you're the
saying?
main one starting stuff. Yeah.
Right. And then, like you said, Hasna, when it comes to having that peace, I feel like you can make every effort. You got problems in your family. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can.
Yeah.
You put all your effort. I ain't gonna say all of your effort, but you put forth that effort to resolve whatever it is. Everybody ain't gonna want to do that. Everybody not gonna want to talk. Everybody ain't gonna want no solution. Everybody ain't gonna
Yeah.
want to get in a healthy place. But at that point, you can be at peace for yourself. I done tried. You know what I'm saying? They're not trying to be with what I'm with. I gave it, I gave them the opportunity. And
Right.
then I feel like, okay, those are the boundaries. Like I done tried that with you. I done tried to conversate with you. I done tried. So I can't deal with you on that type of level right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And
If you're refusing
Mhm.
that healing or the unity that it could be, then I need you to just kind of fall back.
Right. And that's where I'm at with my mom's situation. Like, when you know that you've done everything, you've done things that you shouldn't have never had to do as a child. It ain't my responsibility, but you can have that peace walking away, knowing that you've done your part.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's on you. You see what I'm saying? So, what else I was going to say? And you know what I notice a lot too in dysfunctional families when you try to have conversations, it's like a lot of people are projecting onto you and blaming you for how they feel about stuff. Like they don't even have a real issue with you. They're blaming you for how they felt about an issue, like something they just didn't like. Like that's not a reason to get upset with somebody. You see what I'm saying? I think in situations like that, we need to be able to check ourselves and say, okay, why am I getting triggered by XYZ? You see what I'm saying?
But that's why, and when it happens so much, this is why we're not able to really
Yeah.
identify sometimes with the racial inequality and white supremacy, because we grew up with it for so long that now once it's happening outside of your race,
It's
then
normal.
you're like, it's so normal to you because this is what has been going on in your life. But now it's just a person who is a different shade from you doing something to you or making you feel some kind of way, and then you're so quick to jump out and speak at that, but you won't jump and speak at the ones that you were brought up with.
Oh, say that again.
Okay.
You know, oh, that is so true. Like we were talking about racism before anything. Like we don't want to address our family issues. It's always the white man. Everything is the white man's fault.
Yo, when I
choke you is the white man's fault. Like we gotta, I can't.
When I tell you, like doing, because I got like this commercial cleaning business and I was so excited when I started. I'm like, I'm gonna help my people, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I'm about to make a difference. I'm about to just and seeing some of our people, how they don't want to, those stereotypes that you hear, like, we're lazy, we want something for nothing, but seeing it. Like seeing how many times somebody can look at me, like I'm 32, they'll look at me like, oh, she thinks she better because she got a house and she got this, she got that. I work for everything that I have. You know what I'm saying? When I'm giving someone else the opportunity to work to do better, because everybody got a situation in the story they come at me with. So let me help you figure out how we can, maneuver through that. But if you don't want to put the work in, you can't blame the white man. At that point, what the white man says, you're proving him to be right. You know what I'm saying?
That part. That there
part.
You go.
Accountability.
Exactly.
It seems like accountability is a foreign concept in our communities, but I also feel like it's a foreign concept with humans. Because in the same breath, I'm like, okay, y'all screaming Black Lives Matter, but Black women are being killed. Rather, they're cis women or trans women, predominantly by Black cisgendered men. So if Black Lives Matter, then why aren't you protecting the Black women and the Black girls? But then at the same breath, if all lives matter, then why aren't you protecting Black, brown, people of color? Everybody is just full of it. It's like, where's the accountability?
You know what? And it brings me back to the Capitol riot, right? And I remember watching it on the news, and I kept saying, what is this world really coming to? Because I know for a fact that if it was Black folk up in there, We wouldn't have made it through those
We
front
wouldn't got
doors,
through
let
those
alone
doors.
taking pictures. We wouldn't have left that building alive. So
No,
right
we
there,
wouldn't even
it
got
made
in.
you really see how real, like,
Mhm.
you know, white supremacy is. Like, it's real, honey.
And it's so
Because
in your face.
to witness that, like, that was a moment of, I can do it, but you can't.
Yeah.
Yep. And we
Yeah.
see
Like,
that all the
live
time.
up in
Double
your face.
standards.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was crazy. Because I trust and believe a bomb probably would have been thrown up in there if it was a group of black folk doing that.
Money.
You know what I mean? So it's just like stuff like that. And then it hurts your heart when you see during the times when the pandemic was really hitting hard, and you're watching the news and young black people are breaking into stores stealing Nike and Adidas, and, like, you know, that goes to show you the mentality of people too. So it's just like everything, like, we're quick to point at the white man and stuff like that, but then we're just so embarrassing sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I
It's
do
crazy.
recognize that the social issues and the isms that create the problem, getting back to the root, that white supremacy, that racism, that classism, you know, it's just so many isms that pretty much create the issues. You know, people,
But then the issue, like y'all said, is the accountability. Because if we took accountability for ourselves as a people and unify as a people, there's no stopping us. We're too powerful. That's why they want to keep the issues in the family and the issues with the, you know, the light skin and dark skin. And
They want to keep us separated.
always.
They
Like,
want to keep us
there's
separated.
separation with us, and that's because there would be no white supremacy if we were united as a people. Just like back in the day, you know, when they had the Black Wall Street, like, they worked together. You know what I'm saying?
And I always say, like, even if we just working together and realizing and recognizing your strengths, it's just like, imagine a chess being played on your back, and all you had to do was stand up and the game would be over.
Right.
That's it.
You get what I'm saying? Like, the game will be over if we just stand up and stand together.
We got too much little. Look, you dropped a penny on the floor. I grab your penny. We about to fight over that.
Yeah.
When we can have millions of dollars if we stand up, but we stuck on petty stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There was something I saw that said, I think personally, if we can get over the lies that we've been taught, that goes for, you know, just Black people as a whole, our family issues. If we can get over the lies that we've been taught, because I personally think like 95% of the stuff we believed growing up were lies. You see what I'm saying? If we can get over the lies and really unlearn, but I think just getting out of that mindset is going to be.
But it's, you know what, Trista, and it's so crazy because you're on point with that.
Yeah.
But do you realize how we even start off lying to our children? Even when it comes to these holidays and Santa Claus and all that kind of stuff, we start off like, granted, I get it. You want your children to have, you know, this little fairy tale life and the snow and the fat man coming down the chimney and all of that kind of stuff. But then you sit here and you don't realize what you're doing to them. Right off the bat, you're lying. You're feeding them a whole bunch of lies right from the jump.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we grow up with all of these lies, and then people will look at you funny because you choose to tell your children the truth.
Yeah.
And then now you're the bad guy and you're trying to take the childhood away.
Right.
Like, so my childhood is built off of lies, and that's what I want to remember when I get older, is that my whole childhood I was just lied to.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, you can't even, being African American, you have to be honest with your kids. Just like that 12-year-old boy Tamir Rice that got killed for playing with the toy gun outside. We have to be honest with our kids and let them know you got the same color skin. You're already a target. You're already you know what I'm saying? We don't have the room, the space to even
don't get to have a real child
with lies.
Right.
They need to know exactly where they stand in society, you know.
Right. And I know that we were talking about this some last time, but it's like, because I'm, you know, working on unlearning too. I got, you know, a long way to go, you know, I'm working, but it's like, I do think that like religion play a huge part in keeping a lot of that alive in the Black community. I really do. Especially Christianity. I think it really has a lot to do with keeping a lot of this stuff alive in our community. I really do. And it's not so much of the religion, I think itself. I think it's how it's been taught over the years and passed down. And it's like nobody's questioning anything. I remember hearing like older people say, like, let's say if you were a child questioning something, they'll be like, oh, you don't question the Lord. Like, it's like forbidden to ask questions or say why or right. So that's like shutting you down from being able to think. So it's like you have to follow these programs and conditionings, because if you try to step outside and be not, unconventional or not conform, it's like you're being shamed back into submission. So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying, you look that funny if you're telling your kids the truth or you're trying to, do things a different way. Everybody wants you to conform to the standard. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you all again. I know we've all been going straight to it. We've been going to it with a pitchfork basically on this conversation, but we wanted to give time to our viewers. You can take the time to call in at 213-87-TABOO. Call us on in. The lines are going to be opening again. 213-87-TABOO. Call on in. Let us know what you're thinking when it comes to racial inequality and white supremacy. And in the meantime, we'll just continue to chit chat about these topics.
Yeah.
So my thing is too, when it comes to, when I talk about unity at, how we need to be more unified. We talk about white supremacy, but there's always going to be those white folks that will speak out. I don't see many of them, but they're out there that will speak out about white supremacy. And they get shunned from their families because they don't conform with that foolishness either.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a friend. She's Caucasian, and I love her to death because, baby, when I tell you, she stands up. She will stand up with a heartbeat and don't care what nobody think.
Yeah.
She doesn't care what nobody has to say. It's like right is right and wrong is wrong.
And I love that. That's how I want to raise my kids if I have any. I love that. And I just wish that, like, for me, I just feel like, that was in me. But had I had the right environment to foster that, I'm like, oh, I just feel like I would have been on fire with it. But, I'm getting closer and more connected with my true self as I'm older. But it's just imagine raising your children up to be free like that, to speak and defend what's right. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. That is so.
Is that what y'all feel like? Once you start identifying some of these issues that were kind of taught to us, or all the issues we talked about these last how many weeks? 8 weeks. Like, do you feel more free now that you're able to identify some of these things? Because I'm pretty sure there's more issues that maybe we haven't even got to the root of. You know what I'm saying? But just the ones that we have discussed or whatever, does that give you, like, does that feel like some weight off your shoulder that you can even identify with it and talk about it and begin to heal these different topics?
I know before we decided to do this, I had already been living my life like that. So when we were able to get on this platform, it made it, easy for me to talk out loud.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm going through this phase where before I want to get in front of a camera or step into a room and talk about anything, I want to make sure I've done the work.
Yes.
Behind the scenes. Because a lot of the times you don't realize that a statement or a conversation could come up and now your energy is different and whatever is put out is there.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want those, those negative feelings too much to surface like that when you haven't done the work behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I know for me being on here with you guys and I think it's been about 10 weeks for us. But for us to be doing this every week and consistent with it has allowed me to like really feel so comfortable with talking about it out loud.
Right.
Yes, that's good. I'm going to piggyback off what you said. I definitely feel like I'm giving myself more of that permission You see what I'm saying? To simply just be and feel however I feel, regardless of who agree with it or not, you know. So again, I feel like this is just the beginning and there's so much more to come, but I really think it is giving me that stepping stone that I need. Yeah. So I'm glad that we did this. I am.
Yeah.
How about you? How has it impacted you?
For me, again, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of the podcast and the conversation. It for me, it was about accountability and discipline, and then also just being open and having other people to talk about these things with, and hearing other people's experiences and what pathways that you all took as well. And it just goes to show you, like, healing is possible, but we all have different ways of healing, you know. And to me, healing isn't linear. It's, you know, it takes twists and turns, dips and what have you. And I also feel like on a personal level, for me, I feel like I'll be healing and unlearning and learning for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. That's really good. And I just think having these conversations, it helps me to expand my mind some. Like, for instance, there could be something that I may not have agreed with, but after you ponder that thing, you'd be like, oh, I can see it this way. So it helps us to expand our mind, you know, and be able to see things from different arenas, because there's not always a one right way all the time. You know what I mean? And I know with myself, you know, growing up, feeling like I had to be very what's the word? Like more perfectionist type, like, you know, just kind of buy the book, you know, playing it safe, to where these conversations really help me to open my mind and be able to, you know, not be so rigid in my thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, Nisha?
Well, yeah.
I think it's the same as y'all were saying, because like coming up, I wasn't able to express myself. You know, I got molested as a child, and I kind of just had to, you know, at a young age, just take all that stuff and hold it in, and not, you know, just so like my whole life, I haven't been vocal. I don't express my feelings. You know, I take a lot in, but I felt like, you know, since I've been like on my healing journey, I'm more able to express myself. I don't feel so weighed down with me worried about is what I'm saying and what I need to say and what I feel. Is it going to cause some confrontation with someone? So I'm like, I'd rather deal with it while it's minute than letting it grow. And I got a whole giant then when it could be nipped in the bud earlier. So I do feel like, you know, I can see the progress or whatever with my, you know, my experience and my journey with it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we thought somebody would have called in by now, but again, thank you all that have continued to watch the Chain Breakers podcast. Thank you to all of the amazing hosts here, and, you know, the creator of the show as well, Trista. And do you all have any last thoughts? Because I know you typically do the quote at the end, so I didn't want to take off.
Everything's good.
Okay. Well, we will be tuning in next week for our last episode, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know.
hard to
I
say.
don't know how I really feel about this though. Like, you know, I know we all have other things on our plate and stuff, but it's like on Sundays, I really do look forward to just seeing you guys' face and having just real conversation. It's the realness for me. It's the authentic, you know, conversations that we have. Even when we don't, you know, I brought it up the last time when we were behind the scenes. I'm like, I can always tell when we don't really agree with something that's being said or something like that. But I love this. I love how we are. Like, even though we may have a difference of opinion, we do it and we handle each other with respect and with care.
And that's
And
how
I really do. I love that. So this has been amazing for me, and it is actually bringing me, you know, out of my shell to do some things that I have going on within my life and behind the scenes on my end. And this has been amazing. So Trista, I thank you for getting us together.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you all. Because I know, I just love how we mesh together. Like this was just the perfect team. I don't think anyone else could have done it the way that we do it. We just mesh well together. And yeah, so I just like everybody who's up here. I love it. I love it. And for those of you who've been so faithful and just supporting us, thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in and just supporting. It means a lot. It means a lot that you would basically take out your schedule every Sunday and just to listen to us, that's and then not only listen but to participate. So we really appreciate that. Things are a little different today and next week with the like comments and things, but however, just know that we appreciate your support. We really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will be tuning in next week where we're going to wrap it up. We're going to be discussing healing in general, and positive parenting and how we can start breaking those curses by raising free, and self-conscious and aware kids so they can go out in the world and just be themselves, So tune in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're live on Facebook and YouTube, and we out.
All right.